I still remember that day like it's carved into my soul. The sun was too bright, the air too loud. I stood outside the cafe with my hands shoved into my pockets, staring at my old car parked by the curb. The paint was chipped, the mirror cracked, but it was mine. When Lena walked out, heads turned. She always knew how to make an entrance, heels clicking, perfume trailing behind her like a spell. "Hey," I said, smiling. "You ready to go?" She looked me up and down, then at the car. "You're serious? You brought that thing?" I laughed weakly. "It's still running." "Barely, but it runs." Her two friends, Sophie and Mia, burst out laughing. Lena joined in, tossing her hair back. "Ethan, you really need to get rid of that antique. It's embarrassing." I froze for a second, not because of what she said, but how she said it. Loud enough for the people around us to hear. Loud enough to sting. "It gets me where I need to go," I said quietly. She rolled her eyes. "You're too proud of the wrong things. Come on, Daniel drives a Tesla. You could at least try." "Daniel?" I frowned. "The guy from your economics class?" She smirked. "Relax. He's just a friend. He offered me a ride last week, and honestly, it was nice." I tried to laugh it off, but my chest burned. "I'll keep that in mind when I win the lottery." "Or," she said, leaning close with a teasing grin, "you could stop fixing cars for other people and actually buy one worth driving." Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. I had spent nights working overtime at the garage, saving up for our future, while she dreamed of parties and travel. We were from different worlds, but I thought love made the difference smaller. Chris showed up right then, walking over from across the street. "Yo, Ethan. You guys heading out?" Lena's face changed instantly. Her fake smile returned. "Hey, Chris," she said sweetly. "Hey," he replied, glancing between us. "Everything good?" "Perfect," she said, linking her arm through mine before whispering, "Let's just go before more people see that car." Chris raised an eyebrow at me. "Rough morning?" I forced a grin. "Nothing I can't handle." He looked at the car, then at her. "Right. See you at the shop later." "Yeah," I said, opening the car door for her. "I'll be there." Lena hesitated before getting in. "You sure this thing won't fall apart?" "It's solid," I said, though I wasn't sure who I was convincing, her or myself. As I started the engine, it coughed twice before growling to life. She sighed loudly. "I swear, Ethan, one day this car's going to explode." "Then I'll fix it again," I said. She didn't laugh this time. Instead, she turned to look out the window, scrolling through her phone. "You know, maybe it's time you stopped being so small." "Small?" She shrugged. "You're comfortable being average. You don't dream big enough." I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. "Everything I do for us." "Then maybe do better," she said flatly. I wanted to yell, to ask why love wasn't enough for her, but the words stuck in my throat. We drove in silence until I dropped her off at her apartment. She didn't say thank you or goodbye, just got out and walked away, her heels clicking like a metronome marking the rhythm of my heartbreak. Chris called me later that evening. "She really said that?" "Yeah," I muttered. "In front of everyone." He was quiet for a second. "You deserve better, man." "I know," I said, but I didn't believe it. "She's not worth it, Ethan. She's the only one I've got." "Then maybe that's the problem," he said softly. After the call, I sat in the driver's seat of my old car, watching the city lights flicker across the windshield. I ran my hand over the steering wheel. It was worn, scratched, and honest, unlike her. I whispered to myself, maybe I'm just not enough. The car didn't answer. It just sat there, humming faintly, like it understood. That night, I replayed her laughter over and over in my head. The way her eyes sparkled when she mocked me. The way everyone looked at me like I was nothing. I told myself it didn't matter. That tomorrow I'd forget. But I didn't. Because that was the day I realized something I'd never dared to admit: love isn't always kind. Sometimes it humiliates you. Sometimes it teaches you the hard way who you really are. And that day, standing beside my rusted old car while the woman I loved laughed at me, I learned my first real lesson about pride and pain. I just didn't know yet, it was only the beginning. I stood outside Lena's apartment that night, clutching a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite. I had just gotten my paycheck and wanted to surprise her. It was raining, but I didn't care. I kept imagining her face when she saw me. When I knocked, laughter spilled from inside, two voices. Hers, and a man's. I frowned. Lena. It's me. The door opened halfway. She stood there in a silk robe, her hair messy, cheeks flushed. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of Daniel, leaning against the couch, shirt unbuttoned. My voice cracked. What's going on? She blinked, pretending to act calm. Ethan. You weren't supposed to come tonight. I wanted to surprise you, I said, lifting the flowers. Guess I'm the one surprised. Daniel chuckled. Man, you really should have called first. I turned to him. Stay out of this. Lena sighed. Ethan, please don't make a scene. A scene? My throat burned. You're cheating on me in your apartment, and I'm making a scene. She crossed her arms. Don't be dramatic. It's not like we were married. I froze. 3 years, Lena. 3 years I've been saving for us, skipping meals so I could buy you stupid gifts. And now you're telling me I'm being dramatic? Daniel smirked. Calm down, man. You can't blame her. You're, what? A mechanic? You fix cars for a living. She deserves better. I stared at him, trying to keep my voice steady. You think money makes you better than me? No, he said, shrugging. But it makes me more interesting. Lena looked away. He's right, Ethan. I can't live my life waiting for you to make it. I need someone who already has. I felt something snap inside me. So that's it? After everything? She hesitated, her voice low. You were never enough. I swear, for a moment, everything stopped. The sound of rain outside, the flicker of the ceiling light, even my breathing. I looked at her, the woman I thought I knew, and saw nothing familiar. Daniel's laughter broke the silence. Guess the joke's on you, huh? I stepped back, gripping the flowers so tight that the stems snapped. You could have just told me. She frowned. You wouldn't have let me go. I would have tried, I whispered. Daniel wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. It's getting late, man. You should probably leave. Lena didn't even look at me when she said, you should go, Ethan. Please. I nodded slowly. Right. Wouldn't want to make a scene. I turned and walked out. I could still hear them laughing as the door closed behind me. The rain hit my face the moment I stepped outside. The lilies slipped from my hand and landed in a puddle, petals crushed, stems bent. I stood there for what felt like hours, the city blurring around me. Chris called just then. Hey, man, you coming to the bar? You sound off earlier. I couldn't speak. Ethan. You okay? I finally said, she's with someone else. He was quiet for a long time. You serious? Yeah. Daniel. Remember him? The guy who bragged about buying cars just to sell them at a loss. Jesus. I laughed bitterly. She said I was never enough. Don't listen to her. She's shallow, man. You've got a good heart. Good hearts don't buy Teslas, I muttered. Ethan. I'll call you later, I said and hung up. The rain poured harder. I started walking with no direction, just moving because standing still hurt too much. My shoes squished, my clothes clung to my skin, but I didn't care. I passed a restaurant window where couples were laughing inside, holding hands. Every sound, laughter, music, car horns, felt like it was mocking me. I thought about turning back, about begging her to explain, but what was left to say? She'd already said it all. By the time I reached my car, I could barely feel my fingers. I sat in the driver's seat, water dripping from my hair. The flowers lay crushed on the passenger side, a reflection of everything I'd just lost. I started the engine, but didn't drive. I just stared at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes looked hollow, my lips trembling. That was the night I realized something inside me had died. The version of me that believed love was enough, that thought kindness would be returned, it all ended there, in that rain-soaked street. I whispered to myself, you were never enough, huh? And for the first time, I believed it. When the light turned green, I drove without knowing where I was going. I didn't care anymore. Somewhere deep down, I felt a cold fire starting to burn, a voice whispering that maybe, one day, they'd regret this. But that night, all I could do was drive through the rain, pretending the thunder was louder than my heart breaking. That was the night Ethan died. And someone colder took his place. I don't remember the first morning after it happened, just the silence. It felt heavier than noise. My phone buzzed non-stop, but I couldn't move to check it. I just sat on the floor beside my bed, staring at the ceiling. When I finally looked in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. My eyes were hollow, my skin pale. You look pathetic, I muttered. She wouldn't even pity you. A knock rattled the door. Ethan, open up, it's me, Chris called. I didn't want to see anyone, but he kept knocking. I know you're in there. You skipped work again. I sighed and opened the door. Chris stepped in, holding a takeout bag. Man, you look like hell. Thanks, I said, sitting on the couch. He set the food down. You've been MIA for a week. What's going on in that head of yours? I laughed bitterly. Nothing. Just trying to forget I ever existed. Come on, don't start that. You can't let her destroy you. She already did, I said flatly. He dropped onto the chair opposite me. Ethan, she's not worth losing yourself over. I stared at the window. You didn't see her face, Chris. She looked at me like I was something she'd stepped on. Like I was beneath her. She's shallow. Let her drown in her own ego. She's happy, I whispered. She's with Daniel now, driving around in luxury cars, posting pictures like she's living the dream. Chris frowned. You've been checking her posts. I can't help it, I said. Every time I tell myself not to look, I end up scrolling again. He leaned forward. Then stop. Delete her, block her, do something. I shook my head. It's not that easy. You make it sound like she's the only person in the world. She was my world. He sighed. Bro, you quit your job, you barely eat, and you look like you haven't slept in days. This isn't love anymore, it's self-destruction. I rubbed my temples. I gave her everything. My time, my money, my heart, everything. And for what? For lessons, he said simply. Pain teaches faster than comfort. I looked up at him. You sound like an Instagram quote. He grinned weakly. Maybe. But it's still true. The smile didn't last. I leaned back, staring at the cracked ceiling. You ever wonder why people betray the ones who love them most? All the time, he said. But there's no answer. Some people just need to break others to feel big. I wish I could stop thinking about her, I said. Every time I close my eyes, I see her laughing with him. Chris looked around the apartment, empty pizza boxes, dirty dishes, clothes scattered everywhere. You're drowning, man. And she's not even watching. That stung more than I expected. Then what should I do? He paused. Start living like she doesn't matter. I laughed. Easier said than done. Then fake it until it's real. I stayed silent for a while, the hum of the fridge filling the space. Then my phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it, until I saw the notification. Lena had posted a photo, her and Daniel standing in front of a brand new Mercedes. Her caption read, "Found my real home." Chris leaned over. Don't look at that, man. I couldn't stop staring. That's the same car I always talked about buying someday. He exhaled slowly. She's rubbing it in. My grip tightened around the phone. She used to laugh when I dreamed out loud. Now she's living my dream, with someone else. Then take it back, Chris said quietly. I blinked. What do you mean? Not her. The dream. Take back your ambition, your pride, your fire. Prove she didn't destroy you. For a moment, something flickered inside me, anger, maybe, or clarity. You really think I can? He nodded. I don't think. I know. You've just forgotten who you are. I looked down at my hands, the same hands that used to fix cars until sunrise. They trembled, but not from weakness this time. Maybe it's time to remember. Chris smiled faintly. That's the Ethan I know. I stood up, walked to the sink, and poured the half-empty bottle of whiskey down the drain. The smell burned my nose. What are you doing? He asked. Making space, I said. If I keep living like this, she wins. He clapped my shoulder. Then don't let her. As he left, I walked back to the mirror. My reflection still looked tired, but something in my eyes had changed. The pain was still there, but underneath it, there was something sharper. I whispered to myself, you wanted me to disappear, Lena. Fine. The old me is gone. The person staring back at me smirked. But the one that replaces him, you'll wish you never made. I met Mr. Harris on a night when I was supposed to give up. I'd been wandering aimlessly, rain soaking through my jacket, wondering what the hell I was doing with my life. The sign outside his garage flickered, Harris Auto Restoration. Something about it pulled me in. An old man looked up from under a car hood. You lost, kid. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just don't know where I'm supposed to be anymore. He wiped his hands on a rag and looked me over. You got that mechanic look, dirty nails, tired eyes, and the kind of frustration only engines can fix. I gave a half smile. Used to work at a garage. Quit. Why? Because I quit on myself, I guess. He studied me for a moment, then nodded toward the car. Grab that wrench. Let's see if you still remember what you're doing. I hesitated. You don't even know me. Don't need to, he said. Engines don't lie. Something in his voice made me move. I grabbed the wrench, slid under the car, and started loosening bolts. My hands moved out of habit, steady, confident, like they remembered what my mind had forgotten. When I crawled back out, Mr. Harris was smiling. You've got skill, kid. You just lack direction. I had direction once, I said quietly. I just followed it off a cliff. He chuckled. Then maybe it's time to climb back up. I stared at the floor. You offering a job or a therapy session? Both, if you want it, he said. I could use someone who knows their way around a carburetor, and life's beatdowns. I almost laughed. You sure? I'm a mess. So's every great mechanic, he said. The good ones fix cars. The great ones fix themselves first. That line stuck with me. I took the job. Not because I wanted a future, but because I needed a reason to wake up. The first few weeks were brutal. My body ached, my mind drifted, and the ghost of Lena's laughter echoed whenever the shop went quiet. Mr. Harris never pried, but he noticed. "You work like a man running from something," he said one afternoon. "Maybe I am," I replied. He nodded. "Just make sure you're also running towards something." I didn't answer. I didn't know what that something was yet. Nights were the hardest. After closing, I'd sit by the workbench staring at old car manuals. Mr. Harris would brew 2 mugs of coffee and sit beside me. "You got plans?" he asked once. "Plans?" I scoffed. "I barely have direction." "Then start small," he said. "Fix one thing you can control. Engines, emotions, same principle. Tighten what's loose, replace what's broken, and don't overthink the noise." I looked at him. "You always talk in metaphors." "Only when they work," he grinned. Slowly, I began to rebuild, not just engines, but myself. I started saving money. Took night classes in business. I told myself it was for a better future, but deep down, it was about pride. I wanted to become someone the old me wouldn't recognize. Mr. Harris noticed the change. "You've got fire now," he said one evening. "Just don't let it burn you." "I won't," I said. "I know what it's like to burn out." He handed me a set of keys. "That old Mustang outside needs a full rebuild. I'm trusting you with it." "Seriously?" He nodded. "Call it your first real project." I ran my fingers over the worn metal of the car. "Feels like it's seen better days." "So have you," he said. "But look at you now." I smiled faintly. "Guess we're both under restoration." He laughed. "Now that's the spirit." Weeks turned into months. My hands toughened, my mind sharpened. I stopped checking Lena's social media. Not because I forgot her, but because I no longer needed to remember. Still, sometimes, when the nights got quiet, her voice slipped into my head, her laughter, her words, the way she made me feel small. And instead of pain, I felt fuel. One night, while tightening a bolt, I whispered to myself, "You were right, Lena. I wasn't enough. But that's about to change." Mr. Harris overheard. "Talking to ghosts again?" "Something like that." He smiled knowingly. "Just make sure those ghosts push you forward, not backward." "They already are," I said. "Every scar reminds me I've still got fight left." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "Good. Because the world doesn't hand out second chances, you build them." That night, I stayed late, staring at the Mustang. The metal gleamed under the dim shop light. My reflection in its chrome bumper looked different now, still haunted, but stronger. I whispered, "I don't want revenge." The words felt strange on my tongue, but true. "I just want to become someone the old me could never imagine being." The engine roared to life as if it understood. For the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt rebuilt. When people say time heals everything, they never mention how quietly it changes you. Years passed, but I barely noticed. One day I was turning wrenches in Mr. Harris's shop, and the next, I was standing inside Phoenix Motors, my own business. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who was mocked for driving a rusted piece of junk now restored cars worth more than his old life combined. "Ethan, the client's here for the Ferrari," Nora called out from across the floor. "Tell him I'll be there in a minute," I said, wiping grease off my hands. Nora leaned against the car, smirking. "You should really let me handle the talking. You've got that intimidating CEO look now." I chuckled. "That's just exhaustion. You try running this place on 5 hours of sleep." "Please," she said, rolling her eyes. "You live for this." Maybe she was right. Phoenix Motors had become my pulse, every sound, every spark, every deal. Zane, the youngest on the team, ran up holding a clipboard. "Boss, the Lumbo's detail job is done. Should we deliver it tonight or tomorrow?" "Tonight," I said. "We promised early delivery. Keep our word." He nodded, grinning. "You're too strict, man. No wonder the clients worship you." I smirked. "Discipline isn't cruelty, Zane. It's respect, for the work and for yourself." He gave a mock salute. "Yes, sir." Nora laughed. "See? Even your pep talks sound like engine manuals." "Because both are about precision," I said, half smiling. The sound of heels clicked behind me. I turned to see Ella walking in, her hair tied up, a soft smile on her face. "Dad says you still owe him dinner," she said. I grinned. "He keeps reminding me every week." "Then maybe you should actually go," she teased. "He misses you." "I miss him too," I admitted. "He built the foundation. I just kept laying bricks." She looked around the shop. "He'd be proud. You turned dust into legacy." I wanted to believe that. "Instead," I said, "he taught me to rebuild engines. I just applied it to my life." Nora folded her arms. "You ever stop to breathe, boss?" "Breathing's overrated," I said. "There's always another car, another client, another goal." Ella tilted her head. "And after all that? What's left?" I hesitated. "Peace, maybe. Or at least the kind that doesn't hurt." She smiled softly. "That's not peace, Ethan. That's silence." The words hit deeper than I wanted to admit. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the office overlooking the workshop. The neon Phoenix Motors sign glowed through the glass, painting everything in orange light. The name still made me smile. Rising from the ashes. It sounded poetic until I realized ashes don't feel anything. Nora poked her head in. "You're still here?" "Yeah. Just checking the inventory," I lied. She walked closer, setting a cup of coffee on my desk. "You mean thinking about whatever's eating you?" I smirked. "You're too observant for your own good." "It's obvious," she said. "You've got everything people dream about, money, cars, respect, and yet you look like someone waiting for a punchline." I leaned back. "Maybe I'm just waiting for karma to finish its job." She frowned. "You mean Lena?" I stayed silent. "Ethan," she said softly, "you don't owe the past anything." "I know," I said. "But part of me still wants it to see what I became." She smiled. "Then make sure when it does, you're not just rich, you're happy." I looked down at my hands. "Happiness feels too temporary." "Then aim for peace," she said. "Just make sure it's not the quiet kind." When she left, I stared at the framed photo on my desk, me, Mr. Harris, and Ella from the early days. His arm around my shoulder, that proud grin on his face. He believed in me when I couldn't stand myself. The next morning, Ella found me under a lifted car. "You were here all night, weren't you?" I grinned. "How'd you guess?" "Because only you would rebuild an engine instead of sleeping." "Engines don't betray you," I said before I could stop myself. She didn't flinch. "Not everyone does, Ethan." I met her eyes. "Maybe. But once you've been burned, you stop touching fire." She knelt beside me. "Or you learn to control it." Her words lingered long after she walked away. By noon, I was back to signing contracts, giving orders, and pretending success was enough. Zane joked around, Nora argued with suppliers, Ella kept the books running. On the surface, we were unstoppable. But when the shop went quiet again that evening, I caught my reflection in the window, sharp suit, clean hands, perfect posture, and wondered when I became someone I didn't recognize. I whispered, "You did it, Ethan. You made it." The silence answered back, "Then why do you still feel empty?" Later, as I locked up, Zane called out, "Boss. Some influencer tagged Phoenix Motors, says we're the best in the state." I smiled faintly. "Good. Let's make sure we stay that way." He grinned and ran off, full of fire I remembered having once. I stood there, alone under the neon glow, and breathed in the scent of oil and steel. This was my kingdom, built from heartbreak, fueled by obsession, polished by time. Yet beneath it all, the same question echoed inside me: when does rising end and living begin? I didn't have the answer. Not yet. All I knew was that karma has a perfect memory, and I could feel it watching, waiting for its cue. Fate really does love irony. When I walked into the Crystal Dome that evening, the lights were blinding, the crowd glittered with wealth, and my name echoed from the speakers: Ethan Cole, founder of Phoenix Motors, our guest of honor tonight. The applause washed over me like a memory I didn't belong to. I adjusted my suit, nodded to a few familiar faces, and kept my smile polite but distant. Then I saw her. Lena. She stood across the room beside Daniel, both dressed like they were still trying to prove something. Her laughter stopped mid-note when our eyes met. For a split second, I saw the old arrogance fade into disbelief. I didn't move. I just smiled. Slowly. Calmly. "Mr. Cole." A journalist approached me with a microphone. "How does it feel to be one of the youngest entrepreneurs in the luxury auto industry?" "It feels earned," I said, glancing briefly toward Lena. Every dent, every failure, it all had purpose. The crowd laughed softly, unaware that my words had another audience. I shook hands with investors, took photos, exchanged cards, all while feeling her gaze burn into my back. I didn't turn. Not yet. When I finally stepped aside for a moment of quiet near the exhibit of vintage cars, I heard her voice. "Ethan." I turned slowly. "Lena." Her lips parted, but no sound came out at first. Wow, you look different." "I should," I said. "It's been years." She nodded awkwardly. "You're the guest of honor." "Seems that way." I tilted my head slightly. "Still driving cars?" "Just different ones now." Her laugh was nervous, almost fragile. "You always did have big dreams." I smiled faintly. "You used to call them delusions." Color drained from her face. "Ethan, Before she could finish, Daniel appeared, his hand possessive on her arm. Well. Ethan Cole, the mechanic turned mogul." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Daniel," I said evenly. "Still in real estate?" He hesitated. "For now." "Market's rough." I nodded. "Yeah, I read about a few bankruptcies recently." He forced a chuckle. "You know how it is, business ups and downs." "Sure," I said. "Though some crashes are harder to recover from than others." Lena glanced at him nervously. "Daniel, maybe we should." He ignored her. "So, Ethan, Phoenix Motors, huh? Impressive. You must have had help." I looked him dead in the eye. "I had belief. The kind you mocked when I didn't have a dollar to my name." Silence stretched between us, sharp and heavy. Around us, cameras flashed, people laughed, but it all felt distant. Lena finally spoke. "Ethan, I didn't mean to hurt you back then. I was young and stupid." "You were honest," I said quietly. "You wanted more than I could give. And now you have it." Her voice trembled. "No, not anymore." Daniel shot her a glare. "Lena." She flinched. I almost pitied her. Almost. "Ethan," Daniel said, trying to regain control, maybe we could collaborate. A fresh start. Our company could promote. I raised a hand. You're offering partnership now? He smiled tightly. Business is about opportunity. So is karma, I said. His face stiffened. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing personal, I said. Just that sometimes, the wheel turns faster than expected. Lena's eyes glistened. Ethan, please, don't say things like that. We're not your enemies. I leaned closer, my voice calm. You made me one when you laughed at who I was. She swallowed hard. I was wrong. I nodded slowly. You were. For a moment, the air between us thickened with all the things that could never be undone. Then a reporter called from across the hall, Mr. Cole, could we get a few shots by your new prototype? I smiled at her one last time. Excuse me. Duty calls. As I walked away, Daniel muttered under his breath, arrogant prick. I turned slightly. No, Daniel. Just the man you said I'd never become. The crowd welcomed me again with flashes and applause. Behind me, I could feel their silence, awkward, defeated, fragile. A woman beside me whispered, "Do you know them?" Once, I said. A lifetime ago. When the event ended, I stepped outside into the cool night air. The city lights shimmered off the hood of my car, a restored 1969 Mustang, the same model I used to dream about when I had nothing. Chris's voice echoed in my memory, "Take back your dream." I had. But standing there, I realized something important. It wasn't revenge that felt good. It was closure. As I started the engine, I saw Lena and Daniel walking toward a cheap-looking sedan parked near the curb. Their voices carried faintly across the lot. Why did you talk to him like that? Daniel hissed. Because he deserved respect, she snapped. He scoffed. Respect doesn't pay bills. She turned away, and for a second, our eyes met through the glass. Hers were wet, but she smiled faintly, like she finally understood. I gave a small nod, shifted into gear, and drove off. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger. I felt weightless. Maybe karma didn't need my help after all. I didn't plan revenge. Life handed it to me, neatly wrapped with irony. When my assistant walked in holding a loan application, she said, "Sir, this one's urgent. The applicant claims to have known you personally." I skimmed the file. Daniel Price. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. But the address, the signature, it was all real. I leaned back, a quiet laugh slipping from my throat. Well, isn't that poetic? Should I schedule a meeting? She asked. Yes, I said. I'd love to hear his pitch. When Daniel walked into my office 2 days later, his confidence had evaporated. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes tired. He didn't even recognize me at first. "Mr. Reed," he said, extending a hand. "It's an honor, your company's reputation is." "Cut the formality," I interrupted, smirking. "You don't remember me, do you?" He blinked, confused. Then it hit him. "Ethan." "Still alive," I said. "Still fixing cars. Just, on a bigger scale." He tried to laugh, but it came out broken. "Man, it's been years. We heard you were doing well." "You could say that." I gestured for him to sit. "So, this loan. Tell me about your business." His voice cracked as he began. "We had a rough patch. Investors pulled out. Lena and we tried expanding too fast. We just need a little help to get back on our feet." I folded my hands, pretending to listen. The irony of him sitting across from me, begging for mercy, was almost too rich to process. "Daniel," I said finally, "you used to laugh when I talked about dreams. You told Lena I'd never make it past the garage. What changed?" He swallowed hard. People change, Ethan. We all make mistakes. I was young, stupid. No, I cut him off. You were arrogant. There's a difference. He lowered his gaze. Silence stretched between us until I finally spoke again. The board will review your application, I said coldly. But you won't get the loan. He looked up sharply. You can't do that. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I stood. You taught me what failure feels like. I just returned the lesson. He left without another word, shoulders slumped. I watched him disappear through the glass door, no satisfaction, just silence. 3 weeks later, I got another visitor. My assistant peeked in. Sir, there's a woman asking to see you. Says her name is Lena. My chest tightened, but I kept my tone even. Send her in. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. The glow she once had was gone. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. She clutched her purse like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Ethan, she whispered. You look incredible. I stayed seated. I could say the same, but I'd be lying. She flinched. I made a mistake, she said, her voice trembling. Leaving you was the worst decision of my life. Was it? I asked, raising an eyebrow. You seemed happy in those photos with Daniel. Her eyes filled with tears. That happiness was fake. He lost everything. We lost everything. And now, I can't stop thinking about you, about us. I laughed quietly. Us? You mean the version of me you didn't believe in? Ethan, please, she begged. I didn't know you'd become this. If I had. Stop, I said sharply. You don't get to rewrite the past. She stepped closer. I'm not asking for money or pity. I just want a chance to make things right. I stood up, meeting her eyes. You were right back then, Lena. You can't waste your life on a loser. I let the pause hang before adding, good thing I'm not one anymore. She covered her mouth, sobbing. You've changed, she whispered. I had to, I said quietly. Pain does that to people. She looked at me for a long moment, searching for some trace of the boy she once knew. But he was gone. Goodbye, Ethan, she finally whispered. I didn't stop her. The sound of her heels faded down the hall until all that was left was silence. That night, I stood on my balcony, city lights stretching endlessly below me. I thought I'd feel triumphant. But I didn't. Chris called. Heard from an old ghost today. 2, actually, I said. Both from the same grave. He chuckled. So, closure. Yeah, I said softly. Closure. As I hung up, the wind brushed against my face, cool and calm. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't broken either. I had simply moved on. And in that quiet moment, I realized karma didn't destroy them for me. It just reminded me I didn't have to. I stood in the garage of my new mansion, surrounded by machines that purred like thunder and shined like mirrors. Yet my eyes were drawn to the old, rusted car in the corner, the same one that once broke down more times than I could count. Its paint had faded, its seats torn, but I couldn't get rid of it. That car carried the version of me who refused to give up. Still holding on to the past. Ella's voice echoed behind me. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a small smirk on her lips. Not holding, I said, glancing at the old car. Just remembering who I was before I forgot my worth. She stepped closer, running her fingers across the hood. Mr. Harris told me once that this car was your first love. He wasn't wrong, I replied. But she broke down on me more than Lena ever did. Ella laughed softly. At least this one didn't walk away. I chuckled, shaking my head. You've got a point. For a while, we stood there in silence. The faint scent of motor oil hung in the air, mixed with the faint hum of luxury cars waiting to be driven. You know, she said quietly, you could restore it. Make it new again. I could, I said, looking at her. But I think I'll keep it like this. Some things remind you where you came from better when they're left untouched. She smiled. You've changed, Ethan. Have I? You don't chase ghosts anymore. I looked at her, really looked at her, the woman who'd seen me rise from the ashes, who'd worked late nights beside me when the business was just an idea and a dream. Maybe I just stopped letting ghosts drive. Her eyes softened. That's poetic. Don't tell anyone, I said with a grin. They'll think I've gone soft. You already have, she teased, walking toward the door. Breakfast is ready, Mr. Reed. As she left, I turned back to the car one last time. Thank you, I whispered, not to the machine, but to the man I used to be. That morning, sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows of my mansion. I grabbed my keys, heading out. The air felt clean, lighter somehow. Chris called as I was stepping into my new car, a sleek black beast that roared with pride. Bro, you ever just wake up and realize you actually made it, he said through the speaker, half laughing. Every morning, I replied. Then I check my bank account just to be sure. He laughed louder. You deserve it, man. You really do. Maybe, I said. But it wasn't just about money, Chris. It was about proving I could rebuild myself. Yeah, but now that you have, what's next? I glanced toward the gate. Peace, I said simply. The car purred as I drove down the long driveway, the world outside the gate shimmering in the morning light. I wasn't expecting what came next. Lena. She was standing by the gate, dressed elegantly but with the same haunted look I'd seen in her eyes during our last meeting. She froze the moment she saw me. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. The guilt in her eyes said enough. For a split second, I thought about stopping. But then I remembered every night I'd spent trying to rebuild myself, every hour I'd spent turning pain into progress. So I didn't stop. Our eyes met as I drove past her, mine calm, hers broken. Ella's voice echoed in my head, you don't chase ghosts anymore. For the first time, I truly understood what that meant. By the time I hit the main road, the mansion disappeared from my rearview mirror, and so did she. Later that evening, I sat on the terrace, watching the sunset burn gold over the horizon. Ella joined me with 2 mugs of coffee. Long day? She asked. Long life, I corrected, smiling faintly. She handed me a cup. You saw her, didn't you? I looked at her, surprised. How did you? She came by before you left, Ella said softly. Didn't say much. Just, waited. I told her you were busy. She didn't need to see me, I said, sipping my coffee. Some stories don't need a final chapter. Ella tilted her head. But you looked at her, didn't you? I did. And? I exhaled slowly. I felt nothing. She smiled gently. That's everything, Ethan. That's peace. The breeze brushed through her hair, and for a moment, I just watched her, steady, kind, unpretentious. The kind of person who didn't need to understand every wound to help it heal. I used to think revenge was victory, I said quietly. But standing there today, seeing her like that, I realized victory doesn't come from proving someone wrong. It comes from proving yourself right. Ella nodded. So what now? You've built everything you ever dreamed of. I looked around, the mansion, the horizon, the life that had once felt impossible. Now I learn how to live it. She laughed softly. You sound like an old man. Maybe I finally feel like one, I said with a grin. We sat there, watching the last light fade from the sky. The city below hummed with life, the same city that once swallowed me whole. But now, it felt different, like it finally recognized me. Ella broke the silence. You know, if you ever do restore that old car, I call dibs on the first ride. Deal, I said. But only if you promise not to crash it. She nudged my arm. No promises. Her laughter lingered in the air long after she went inside. I stayed on the terrace a little longer, looking out at the world I'd built, the peace I'd earned. The boy who once begged for love had become a man who didn't need validation. The man in the mansion wasn't born from revenge. He was built from resilience. And as the night settled in, I whispered to the quiet sky, I finally made it, and this time, I did it for me.